Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to Season 3, Week 21 of the DC Sports Digest. Busy week today, almost every team has something to talk about, so without further ado, let's just get started. Starting with the Nats, they had a pretty good week in spring training. Obviously, it probably won't translate to the regular season, but they did beat the Yankees, Astros twice, and the Marlins and Cardinals, losing to the Mets. Just had a good outing. We were able to shout out the Yankees. Of course, like I keep saying, in spring training. Signed a pitcher, Zach Littell. I think maybe he'll be in the back of our rotation or reliever. We'll see what happens. Congrats to Kate Cavalli. We named him our opening day starter. And going back to the World Baseball Classic, Great Britain and Israel both eliminated, but the U.S. was able to narrowly move on. They needed some help from Italy, but Italy won, and they were able to move on to the quarterfinals, where they ended up beating Canada. The semifinal is Sunday versus the Dominican Republic, and if they win that, the final is on Tuesday. That's all I have for the Nats. This week they're playing the Marlins a couple times, also the Cardinals a couple times, and the Mets. On to the Wizards, they lost to the Pelicans, Heat, and Magic, continuing their tanking. That's going to help them with the better draft pick, I guess. Trey Johnson had a good game, along with Will Riley and Trae Young versus the Pelicans. Unfortunately, they lost that one. Alex Starr at 28, Will Riley at 22. But those are not the scores you'll hear about. You'll hear about Bam Adebayo scoring 83 points, the second most in league history, as the Heat were able to beat us. I have really mixed feelings. It was, I guess, cool to see a player be allowed to chase the record like that. But also it was very unethical. Because the game was over with the last couple minutes. He stayed in the game, just tried to chuck up anything. But we also couldn't really stop him. We had to foul him every single possession. He had like 40 free throws. So really ridiculous game, and I hope it's a turning point that this organization needs to get past our couple years of losing and hopefully do a lot better next season and beyond. Tristan had a double-double. Bilal had a career-high 29 points. He's actually shooting the ball really well, which hasn't happened too much in his career. He was able to get a game-tying shot to force overtime. Unfortunately, we couldn't pull out the win versus the Magic. That was the game we really were trying to win, and had a chance to. So that was unfortunate, but it was great to see at least some fight this week for the Wizards. After not really too much the rest of the week. Coming up this week, we have games versus the Celtics, Warriors, and 2 games versus the top of the East Pistons. That's all I have for the Wizards. On to the Caps, they beat the Flyers and Sabres, lost to the Bruins and Flyers, getting to 73 points. Playoffs are still looking like a long shot, but we'll see what happens. Matt Roy plays 500 career game. Justice Stewart had 3 points, McMichael had 2. Caps able to hold up the Flames. I think they built a 3-0 lead, the Caps, and the Flames scored 3 more, and then the Caps had 3 or 4 in answer to hold them off. So a very interesting game. Lost convincingly to the Bruins and Flyers. We're actually able to beat the red-hot Buffalo Sabres. Ryan Leonard scored. We were able to get a game winner, I think, from Chikrin. Leonard continues his 5-game point streak, so great to see him continue or get a strong end to the season. We actually beat a really good team in the Sabres. I think it's still too little too late, but we'll see what happens. I don't think we're mathematically eliminated, but we're like 5 to 7 points away, and teams still have a couple games in hand in us since we played more games. So we'll see what happens, but like I said, I'm not thinking we're going to make the playoffs, but maybe the Caps will surprise me. Coming up this week, we have games versus the Bruins, Senators, and Devils. See if they can continue their push or just continue falling flat like they have for most of the season. On to the Commanders. Very busy in free agency. Adam Peters had a super slow start, but he really picked it up and made some really nice signings. Starting with in-house, we re-signed Marcus Mariota, Trent Scott, Chris Paul, and Jake Moody. The big extension was Laremy Tunsil. Adam Peters learned from the Terry McLaurin saga last offseason that you don't want to wait too long with this. 2 years, $60 million with a $30 million signing bonus. He's getting $30 million a year, which is a lot for an offensive lineman, but is all worth it because Laremy Tunsil has been amazing last year, and I know he'll continue that. But in free agency, like I said, it started slow with Meek Robertson. He maybe will start, but we'll see what happens with that. One of the biggest signs, definitely Odafe Oweh. We got a talented edge rusher. The biggest contract given out, 4 year, $100 million, 68 guaranteed. That was really great to see us go for a big edge rusher. Didn't get like a Trey Hendrickson or a Jalen Phillips or something like that, but I think Odafe Oweh is an ascending player. That's what most of these guys are. They're young and ascending, which is great to see. We brought Tim Settle back on a 3 year, $25 million contract. We had a really underrated signing getting linebacker from the Chiefs, Leo Chenal. He's really athletic, really great player. We got edge rusher K'Lavon Chaisson, 1 year, $12 million. He's also a solid ascending player. I'm really excited to see Chiga Konglo, Maryland guy. super athletic tight end on the Titans. I'm excited to see him as the number one option, and with the great quarterback in Jaden Daniels, I think he's really going to thrive. Again, another ascending player. We got safety Nick Cross, hard hitter. He can blitz. You can use him a lot of different ways, so that's great to see. Another edge rusher guy that will get some decent playing time. Charles Menahue, 1 year, $7 million. We got Rashad White, a solid compliment to Bill Krosky-Merritt. So that's great to see. We're bringing back De'Ami Brown as depth, and also Van Jefferson and Jerome Ford, all kind of depth pieces in those wide receiver and running back rooms. So we got a lot of needs filled out. So I feel like really in the draft we can go anyone. Receiver I think is a bigger need. We could still probably get another corner. We need a center somewhere. They may just think someone in-house is good enough to play center, like a Nick Allegretti or something, but we'll see what happens to that. We could draft someone, but I don't know. I'm not really sure what they're thinking at center. They really wanted to get Tyler Linderbaum, but he went to the Raiders, who kind of paid a lot of money for him. So see what happens with that. But overall, really solid free agency that sets us up to do whatever we want in the draft. Also, a couple losses. It took a while for any of our own players to actually sign with people because no one wants our free agents because we were not very good last year. Chris Rodriguez went to the Jaguars, Jacob Martin went to the Titans, and Jonathan Jones went to the Eagles. So good luck to those guys on their new teams. And yeah, there could be a couple more free agency moves, but the biggest ones are behind us. So we'll have a couple more, a little bit more left of free agency, and then we'll start focusing on the draft. I'm hoping to get another mock draft out this week. That's all I have for the Commanders. On other DC sports news, DC United lost to Miami. Their next game is today versus Chicago. DC Power beat Brooklyn and tied Dallas, getting them at 23 points. They are just around a playoff spot, so we'll see if they can get into the playoffs. Their next game is this week versus Carolina. And Washington Spirit lost their first game of the season to Portland. Their next game is this week versus Louisville. Weekly awards: the Capitals beat the Flames 7-3 is my game of the week. They were able to hold off their comeback. My player of the week is Ryan Leonard. He has continued a 5-game point streak. Like I said, great to see him continue that through the end of the season and hopefully build into next season. My team week is the Nationals, actually at a 5-1 record. Pretty good, even if it is just spring training. That's all I have for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Like I said, I'm going to have a new mock draft hopefully this week. Updated post free agency. Like I said, after free agency, we really could go in any direction. A couple things I think we could use more than others, but we'll see what happens. And make sure to check it out and see what I end up picking. Also check out the Instagram and like and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.